with dailytruth.today. And now your host, Rob Brown.
Welcome to this edition of the Daily Truth.Today. I am your host, Rob Brown, and in this special edition, we are going to bring out a topic that is really dear to me and close to my heart because it really affected my family, and my father had a lot to do with this, but it's called geoengineering or climate engineering. A lot of people have called it chemtrails, but from my education and from what I'm learning from our guest today is that it's not really called chemtrails, that's not the scientific term for it, but the scientific term is climate engineering, and we're going to talk about it. My guest today is Dane Wigington. He is a, Dane, I know you're here with us now. I'm going to give you the intro to it, but you have a website. It's called geoengineeringwatch.org. And I really am excited to have you on today. I'm so glad that we're able to get you. I know you're a busy individual, and this is a subject that is so important for all Americans, and especially for Christian America, because of our responsibility. And we'll get into that shortly. But Dane, welcome to the show, and I hope that you're ready for battle here. We're going to talk about a lot of things pertaining to the climate engineering and what's going on around the country and around the world. So welcome, Dane.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for giving this issue a voice. And in the case of this particular issue, people, if they research this and truly objectively investigate, they'll find out this is just not another issue. This is the issue. If we don't deal with this issue, nothing else will matter. And I mean that in a very short time frame. As we discussed off the air, there is mathematically no greater assault against life on Earth than this issue of climate engineering, which is global, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide from it. It's desolating the entire web of life, Rob.
Dane, I just want to ask you now, what was your way of getting involved in this issue? I can tell you briefly with myself. My father was in the Navy for 20 years, and I remember as a young teenager, him telling me and my brothers about the HART program way back in the 1970s, that he was involved with, and it was really a secret Navy program that started that way. But the HART program was part of this. But let's get to what's going on right now above us with the skies and the spraying. Your background and how you got involved in this.
I have a background in renewable energy. I was a former Bechtel Power employee. Bechtel is a company like Halliburton. They're not an honorable company, in my opinion. I left for those reasons at a very young age. But having a background in renewable energy, having grown up in a very smoggy Southern California and wanting to get out of that environment from the time I was very small, moving to the Pacific Northwest, building a very large off-grid home, and then discovering I was losing massive amounts of my solar power from whatever these jet aircraft were emitting in grid patterns and periodic days. And when I began to research, I was astounded to find a mountain of data on geoengineering or climate engineering. And again, my home was on the cover of the world's largest renewable energy magazine. I mean, we're fully off-grid here, and to lose that much power from whatever these jets were emitting, something was wrong. Began to lab test at the state-certified lab to see if the primary elements listed in climate engineering patents were in the rain. I'd hoped they wouldn't be, but they were. I never wanted this battle. Again, this is the last thing I imagined spending the last 12 years of my life on. But massive amounts of aluminum, barium, the primary metals listed in geoengineering patents were in the rain. Those levels kept escalating radically. In fact, over the course of a 5-year period, Rob, we saw in the case of aluminum from an initial baseline test of 7 parts per billion, which was already high, we saw those levels escalate almost 50,000%.
Wow,
in the course of 5 years. That's up to 3,450 parts per billion. So
that's absolutely crazy. That is crazy.
Everything you take is toxic. And so at that point, I had no choice but simply to engage in this battle.
So you really, you kind of in an accidental way, because of where you live and the fact that you are a solar. I understand that your home is completely solar powered, and this was affecting the way your solar array was working, and that's very interesting. I just want to say that when I was a young boy, I remember looking in the sky and seeing these white lines, going across. And I know we have some graphics up that we can show. The white lines that continued to appear in the sky. And I remember asking my dad what those lines were. And he would say to me, well, those are things that you'll find out about as you get older. And he didn't really want to tell me as a young boy. But, he's not alive today. But because of this, it was always in my mind. I always wondered what they were. And, I stumbled into this whole thing. And I really, really have gotten myself involved in it and studied about it. And, from a Christian perspective, because this is a Christian show, I just want to say that, in the Bible, it talks, for instance, in Psalm 24, David said that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The earth is the Lord's, the people, and everything in it belong to him. And we were given a responsibility as stewards or as caretakers of the earth. And Dane, I know that you have a background in your integrity and that you agree with this. And what's your take on what's going on?
Well, again, from a Christian perspective, I would say that this is how the Christian community should look at this. Climate engineering is the greatest assault against life on Earth ever launched by mankind. It's literally the decision of those in power to play God with the weather, nothing less. It's the epitome of human arrogance, human insanity. So if we're going to focus on the biggest issue of all, the hole in the bottom of the boat, it has to be climate engineering, because it leaves nothing untouched, nothing unscathed. And again, the arrogance of man to think they could play God with the weather should be shocking to people. We can't take a breath, Rob, not any of us. We can't take a single breath without inhaling the materials they are using for these programs. And we know that's true. In fact, we have a peer-reviewed study from 2010 of 1,000 whales from around the globe, which were tested for inorganics in their tissue. And the report stated they had jaw-dropping levels of aluminum in their tissue. We know human respiratory ailment is going off the charts, autism off the charts. In fact, we're told now by MIT, one of the primary research institutions on the planet, that on the current trajectory, within 10 years, 1 out of 2 children will have autism. There's no question we're breathing these materials. There's no question of the neurological effect. There's no speculation involved with anything I'm saying. This is an all-out assault against life on Earth, nothing less.
I agree with you, and I do know that I've been following a Dr. Blaylock. He has a website. I think you know who he is. And
Yes.
he's a neurosurgeon, and he lost both of his parents to Alzheimer's, and he made it a point of the rest of his life to expose what's going on with the geoengineering and the climate engineering and the spraying of our skies with these toxic materials. And so, we're going to take a break here momentarily, and we'll come back and we'll get into this in really detail with some more data. So, Dane, hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sidney Cohen. I'm a psychologist in New Jersey. I'm the host of a show called Heading in the Right Direction, which will be appearing on internet TV station Radio Vision Network. It's a show that's going to cover a wide range of psychological subjects. I think you'll be very interested in the subjects. I'm also going to have the opportunity to send me emails, ask me some questions. I'll answer questions, and I very much look forward to you tuning in. I'm very excited to do this. Thank you.
Today's show has been sponsored by Farmers Insurance in Voorhees, New Jersey. To protect your assets and the people you love, call Mike Skoranek, your local Farmers Insurance agent, at 856-336-2553.
We are farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Milan, host of Read All About It. I interview authors of all kinds about their journeys of writing and the struggles that they face. You can watch my show at 12 p.m. on Wednesdays. Tune in to Radio Vision Networks. We hope to see you then.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
And welcome back to the Daily Truth.Today. My guest today is Dane Wigington from the website geoengineeringwatch.org. and we are discussing the climate engineering and talking about how it's affecting us with our health, how it's affecting us with many things. And Dane, I just want to welcome you back. Why don't you tell us, you were recently at a seminar conference, and you presented climate engineering to the people that were in that audience. Tell us just a brief synopsis of what this, we're going to watch a brief minute of the video itself.
CalJam is a large event in Southern California. There was perhaps 2,000 there from the chiropractic medical community. There was maybe 1,000, 1,500 more from the general community. It's a large awareness raising event, so this issue was introduced to them at that presentation. And this is a matter of raising awareness on this issue in the general community. We all need to engage in this effort because, again, this issue affects every single one of us equally. So CalJam was a step in that regard, but we're hoping, Rob, that all the communities, from the environmental community to the spiritual communities, that leaders in these communities address this issue. And unfortunately, that has not been the case. And I've met with a number of Christian leaders, for example, in Northern California, who have really refused to look at this issue. And I've certainly pointed out to them that their own faith does not allow them to look the other way. So I hope the congregations in these groups push their leaders to do what they know they should do, and that's to not turn a blind eye and to stand at their post, to be good stewards of the planet. And again, climate engineering is the epitome of human-caused destruction to the earth we've been given. So it's imperative that people educate themselves and hold their spiritual leaders accountable on this issue.
Okay, thanks, Dane. And we're going to go to that video clip right now, about 3-4 minutes of what you spoke at CalJam.
My most sincere gratitude to everybody in this room who's had the courage to come together with a common goal in a fight for the common good. We face immense challenges, as this presentation or this event has clearly shown. We have challenges from every direction, too many to fully comprehend. But there's a challenge that we face that the vast majority of society is still unaware of. A challenge that's been going on for 6.5 decades in plain sight. A challenge that official agencies and experts have lied to us about. My name is Dane Wigington. I'm the lead researcher and administration for a website called geoengineeringwatch.org. The purpose of our site, the only purpose of our site, is to sound the alarm on global climate engineering. We're non-political. We don't sell anything. I'm not a professional speaker. I'm a father. And that fact caused me to put my life on hold 10 years ago when I became aware of this issue. I have a background with Bechtel Power Corporation, going back a long way, but I have a background in renewable energy. I live in the wilderness of Northern California. I'm completely off-grid. I have wind, solar, and hydropower. But when I moved to this location, surrounded by wilderness, and began to lose 50, 60, sometimes 70 and 80% of my solar power uptake, clearly something was going on in our skies, as you see from this time-lapse video. And by the way, these pictures are from all over the globe, from people who are part of our fight. I began to research this issue because clearly something was going on, something radical. When I found the mountain of data about geoengineering, climate engineering, I was astounded I hadn't heard of this issue before, especially with my background. I found the primary elements in these patents that Billy named. There's about 150 patents. We have the list of most of those patents on our website. Aluminum, barium being primary elements in these patents. I began to test precipitation. I didn't want to find what I found. I'd hoped this perhaps maybe wasn't what it appeared to be, but I did find aluminum in my first rain test, and during the subsequent several years, I had lab tests go from 7 parts per billion of aluminum, which is already high given my filtered forested location, to as much as 3,450 parts per billion of aluminum in a single rain event. This is highly toxic rain. The point of this presentation tonight is to sound the alarm. Much more technical data is available on our website, geoengineeringwatch.org. And after this presentation, I have about 700 commercial DVD copies with 5 presentations on those DVDs, and I will give them away to anyone who will put those DVDs.
Okay, Dane, so this was at CalJam, and you made a very good presentation there. I saw the whole video, and for our viewers, if you want to see that whole video, you can see it on Dane's website called geoengineeringwatch.org, and he has other videos there that will really, really open your eyes to the fact of what's going on above our heads. Dane, just tell me a couple things here. What are some of the goals in terms of reaching out to our communities, especially to folks who are in leadership positions like our churches and stuff like that? How can we really sound the alarm as we're doing here on this show, but what can we do to get them involved?
First, it's imperative to stand on credible ground, to understand that there are multiple layers to what's going on in our skies. There's not one single purpose. There's multiple purposes. All those purposes center around power and control, as we would expect. But it's essential to pass on credible data, Rob. And you can't do that by just pointing at the sky and starting to rant about things you don't technically know that much about. Handing on credible data is imperative. And a simple statement that the governments around the globe are engaged in these activities without the knowledge or consent of the population. Highly toxic, extremely detrimental to the planet, to us. And if you pass on credible data with such a statement, you'll gain ground. You'll gain people's attention. We have very thought out informational flyers on geoengineeringwatch.org that you can download for free, print locally. To keep those with you is imperative so that you can introduce this issue to others. Also, you can hold viewings in communities. The presentations at geoengineeringwatch.org can be used to hold a community viewing, to educate people, have flyers there to pass on. We will not get the cooperation of mainstream media. We won't. They are tasked with hiding this issue. We know that for a fact. We've spoken to mainstream media meteorologists who have told us they're being taken to meetings and told, you don't touch this issue. I've spoken to NOAA scientists. I know USDA scientists, Forest Service scientists. We know they're afraid to speak out because they have no First Amendment protection. It's up to us, the people, to get this word out. Once we provide enough cover, Rob, enough support for those in the academic community and meteorologists and so forth to come out, we'll have a stampede of academicians addressing this issue, but we have to provide them cover by raising public awareness.
All right, Dane. Listen, we're going to have you back. This is going to be a two-part show, two-part series. And I just want to let our viewers know that there's so much more that we need to bring out. This is only a half-hour show, unfortunately, but we're going to do another show with Dane. Dane, as long as you can come back, we're definitely going to have another show with Dane. And the things I want to talk about further is the goals and the process of, reaching out and finding out who these people really are that are involved in these secret programs, because they are secret, I imagine, Dane.
They certainly are. And all roads, Rob, lead back to those who print the money. It's always the case. So those who control the money are the ones at the heart of the worst things happening on our planet. And that's the case here. No question. Central bankers.
Right. I agree with that. But Dane, we're going to have you back, and I really appreciate all that you're doing. You really are spearheading this, and, our prayers are with you. Number one. Number two, anything that we can do, we're going to continue to do to help bring this issue to the forefront of the American people, and especially to Christians who really need to get involved in this issue. So Dane, thank you again for this show and for coming on. We hope to have you again very soon. And this is the Daily Truth, folks. We're bringing you truth, things that you aren't going to hear in the news media, in the main news media, that you're not going to hear. And we appreciate your viewership. We appreciate you watching us here on Radio Vision Network. And so with that, thanks again, and we hope to have you back.